Hey guys, today I'm going to tell you 9 questions you should ask the property manager before appointing them. So you've shortlisted your agents after secret shopping them. The next step is to get them in for an interview to see if they're going to be the right fit for you. Today we're going to give you those 9 questions that should definitely be on your list to ask them. But first, if you like today's content, remember to hit the like, the share, or even throw a comment down for us. It'd mean the world. So the first question I would ask is the person you're interviewing going to be involved in the day-to-day management of your property? So often we meet people that have been promised the world by a BDM, only to find out that when they've signed up, they've been passed over to someone inexperienced and doesn't know what's going on with their property. Unfortunately, a lot of the times those BDMs don't pass on those important notes about your property and what your wants and needs are as a landlord. Question number 2, has the property manager ever owned a property themselves? We understand that not everyone's fortunate enough to be in a position to own their own home. But the one thing that we do know is the property managers that have owned a home before, they make far better property managers because they understand the pains and the costs that are involved with home ownership. Does that property manager then understand your goals of the investment? Is it that you're trying to build a portfolio up? Is it that you're wanting to renovate in time? Is it something that you might be moving back to in the future? All those little things will have a different effect on how to manage your property. You know, when it comes to maintenance, if you're going to be moving back in, they might want to spend a bit more time or money on the actual repair itself so that the home's nice when you do go back into it. Or it might be that you're an owner that wants to go for capital growth. So that property manager needs to understand what changes you need to make that home worth more. So we often find that those property managers that have had a home before will understand those questions. Question number 3. How many properties is that property manager looking after, and will they look after everything from start to finish? So we strongly believe that it's important that your property manager is 100% across everything to do with your property. So often we hear of these agencies where they've got a setup where one person might look after maintenance, one person's looking after routine inspections, one person's looking after the trust account, and it just becomes everyone's property but no one's responsibility. And in those instances, it's quite often when there is an issue that everyone starts to pass the buck. The other thing that's wrong with this model is that you need a property manager who has met your tenant, has been to the routine inspections, so that when it comes time for your lease renewals, they can give you current information and a good recommendation on whether you should renew that lease and what to do with the tenant moving forward. Question number 4. What's the average tenure of the property manager in the business? One of the top pet peeves that we have from people coming to Spectrum is that at their previous property management business, they had a huge turnover of staff, so they never actually knew who it was that they were meant to be talking to. This usually comes down to a lack of training, a lack of systems, poor leadership and a poor office culture. So many agencies hire cheaper and younger staff and throw them into a full-size portfolio, and often without little experience. And what happens is these property managers will quickly fall behind and they get caught out with their lack of experience. And one way to pick that up is when they start hiding behind emails and they're not returning phone calls. And then sure enough, soon you'll get an email from the agency owner saying, hey, welcome to this person, they're your new property manager. As directors of Spectrum, we're actively involved in the day-to-day running of our business. We're across everything with our portfolios, and we even make ourselves available on weekends, late at night, whenever it suits you to contact us. And as Spectrum does grow, we'll take that time to introduce property managers that have been trained by us, they understand our systems and procedures, and still make ourselves available to you whenever it suits you. And fortunately, our software allows us to track all the communication we've had with all stakeholders involved in the property. So whether that's your landlords yourselves, the tenants, suppliers, if there's maintenance going on, it's all tracked in this system so that people know what's going on. So if for some reason I was sick one day, someone else can pick up the ball and know exactly where everything's at. Question number 5, how does your agency conduct entry and exits and routine inspections? We've taken over management of several properties now that have had little to no details in their entry condition reports. Sometimes, even in these reports, the photos are so poorly detailed that you can't tell what they're actually meant to be. What most people don't know is that an inadequate entry report could potentially pose as an insurance headache for future claims if ever needed. We believe that routine inspections are possibly the most important thing to conduct during the tenancy. A good property manager will do their routine inspections at regular intervals with high quality photos and detailed notes on any maintenance that might be required. Sometimes it's those little bits of maintenance that, if picked up early enough, will avoid a huge bill down in the future. The other reason that routine inspections are so important is because it identifies whether the tenant's looking after your property. Not only do our routine inspections contain high quality photos which really detail if it's a minor chip, a major chip, or whatever it may be, but once a year we actually do a video walkthrough of the property so that you can actually put things into context as if you're walking around with us. Question number 6, does the agency provide recommendations on how to reduce vacancy periods and increase the rent? This question sort of goes back to the importance of someone who's owned their own home before, because ultimately someone who's owned their own home will be able to provide those ways of increasing the value without spending too much. So whether it might be a lick of paint, it might be, updating the vanities and tapware, little things like that can add to the perceived value of the home quite easily. I recently took over a management that had been sitting vacant for 6 weeks. Their current agent had asked them to drop the rent, was offering 3 weeks rent, just to get people interested to come and have a look at the property. That didn't sit well with me, so when I met with these landlords, I came up with an effective marketing campaign that saw us get that property rented in the first week without having to reduce any of their rent. Question number 7, this is an important one. What does your agency do at lease renewal time? Contrary to belief, renegotiating and reissuing a lease is actually quite a lot of work, and there can also be significant costs involved too. All too often we hear of agents that just say, whack another $5 or $10 on it and we'll see if we can get it for you. That doesn't sit well with me, and it's not factual information when we take it to the tenant. What we actually do is we sit down and come up with a comparable report of all the properties that have rented in the last 3 months, and we're able to justify what we're coming to you with. So we can say, yes, Mr. Landlord, we do think we should put the rent up $10 a week based on these properties that are similar to yours that have recently rented. Then from your instructions, we'll go and meet with your tenant and we'll take that report as well and say, here's your lease renewal. And if they want to challenge it, we've got facts to back ourselves up. On top of our rental recommendations, once a year, we're going to provide you with a sales report as well. So just so you know that your property is adequately insured, or it might be that you want to build your portfolio, so you might realize some equity there so you're able to purchase your next investment. The next question to ask the property manager is, what program does your agency use for maintenance? Do they use something like Maintenance Manager or Brixen Agent? The reason we think this is a really important question to ask is that software, they generally charge the tradesperson for the privilege of being able to use it. So generally that's in the vicinity of 5 to 10 to 15% on top of their service fee. So as you can understand, most of those tradespeople don't want to pay it, so they'll actually whack that on top, meaning you're going to pay more for your maintenance. At Spectrum, we have really good relationships with all of our tradespeople, so we can ensure that they do a high quality job and that you're not going to get ripped off. And the last question that you should ask your property manager is, when and how can we contact you? All too often we hear of landlords that cannot get hold of their property manager. It might be 5:05, it could even be in the middle of the day, and they're always getting told, can you leave a message, or would you send us an email? At Spectrum, both our tenants and landlords have access to our direct mobile numbers, meaning they can contact us whenever it suits them. Naturally, yes, sometimes we are in appointments or we may be with family, but one thing we always do is get back to them on the same day with an answer. At the end of the day, we're human, we're upfront and we're honest. The one thing I will never do to you is lie. If we don't know the answer, we'll go looking for it. And we'll always give you detailed information about your property so that you can make informed decisions when you need to. So in wrapping up this video, depending on how the agent answers these questions, will ultimately decide whether you have confidence in how they're going to manage your property. You want to make sure that they've answered them really well so that they can justify the fee that they've charged to you. Most importantly, remember, it's not always the cheapest agent who's going to be the best agent. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share or comment, and we'll chat to you soon.